Welcome to Two Open Doors, the podcast that explores our power to open or close the doors of relationship with the important people in our lives. We hope you'll learn from and share your wisdom with our community. Thanks for joining us. Connecting intimately with another human being can sometimes be a scary thing. Deep connection requires vulnerability and radical authenticity, and both of those can expose a person to potential hurt. Yet, without accepting the risks inherent in a relationship, one cannot reap the many benefits of deep connection. In this episode, we'll consider why risk is inherent in a relationship, and will then entertain how that risk can be managed. That will help clarify why courage is a prime requisite for living in intimate connection. In an acquaintance or friendship, two individuals share specific things with one another: shared interests or experiences, a common background, a set of beliefs, etc. An intimate relationship is different in that it also incorporates the prior sorts of shared things, but in addition, and more centrally, it requires that the partners be open and fully welcoming to one another. On this deeper plane, the partners reveal who they are as human beings, with all of the associated flaws, foibles, and fears, as well as their positive traits. That level of transparency can trigger insecurity-based fears, such as a fear of rejection or a fear of potential loss. In normal social interactions, all of us take on various social roles or personas based on what we've learned about social expectations. This is how we fit into a given social situation. We behave differently at a Super Bowl party than we do at a wedding. Beneath the level of these roles or masks, though, we are a different person. At our core lies a particular set of likes and dislikes, hopes, dreams, and desires, and beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world. Those define who we are, not just how we behave in given circumstances. Several prior episodes of this podcast have explored attachment theory as a possible explanation of the forces that mold us into the person that we become in infancy and beyond. As products of both our nature and our nurturing, we humans come into this world with certain predispositions and latent capacities, and our interactions with our caregivers and other influential figures then shape how our innate inclinations develop. In the course of this shaping process, we learn to expect certain things, such as that we will or won't have our needs met by our caregivers. Similarly, we learn to infer how we're seen by those around us, either as someone who is valued and respected, or perhaps as someone inconsequential and unworthy of attention. The impressions that we thus form become the foundation of how we come to see ourselves. If we conclude that we're well cared for and are worthy of being valued by others, we're likely to feel secure, and we come to see others as a welcome source of support and interaction. Conversely, if we feel neglected or uncared for, we are likely to come to feel insecure, and we may see others as a threat to be guarded against. The reason intimate connection can be scary is that it entails sharing our core self with another person. Having aspects of our core self criticized or rejected can feel like an existential threat. Receiving such a negative reaction from someone we care deeply for can trigger our self-doubts or whatever negative views we may hold about ourselves. That can be very painful and disorienting. The nature of intimate connection also helps explain why such a connection can be so satisfying. When we open enough to share who we are at the core with someone we care for, a positive reaction from that person can validate and reinforce what we see as good in us. That encourages further deep sharing, producing more strands of connection between the partners. Mutual trust and respect can flourish in such a relationship, and as we've previously discussed in other episodes, trust and respect are both necessary foundations for a lasting, healthy relationship. In acknowledging that pursuing an intimate connection can be scary, we're confronted with a choice: to avoid risk by not opening ourselves to deep connection, or to take the risk of opening ourselves in order to secure the uniquely satisfying benefits of such connections. Making such a choice can be daunting. People who have been through one or more very painful failed prior relationships may find themselves unable to choose to take another risk of opening themselves to a new partner. Unfortunately, that fear-based inability or unwillingness can block the growth of a new and potentially healthier relationship, turning the fear of another loss into a self-fulfilling prophecy. Such a potential relationship is stillborn. As a personal example of this dynamic of choice in intimate relationships, I have certainly had my share of treasured relationships that haven't worked out. In a couple of cases, deepening of the relationship was blocked by my partner's unwillingness to fully open and invest themselves in our relationship. That resulted in a lopsided relationship in which the energy flowed in one direction, and that was unsustainable. I contributed to those failures by not being realistic about those partners' lack of desire to participate equally in the relationship goals that we had supposedly agreed upon. It's rarely a one-way street. In another relationship, I found myself seeking different things from the relationship than what my partner wanted. That is, we had different relationship goals. While it took some time for that difference to become evident, I found myself unwilling to confront the issue and find a path to resolution. Fear of loss of the precious relationship kept me from rocking the boat, and I found myself repeatedly trying to mold my desires into what would fit within the relationship as it was. In effect, I initially lacked the courage to do what I knew was necessary. I ultimately was able to acknowledge reality and morph the relationship into something platonic and more superficial, rather than lose the connection altogether. This resulted in a deeply felt loss, but making this courageous change was absolutely necessary for the sake of maintaining both my and my partner's personal integrity. Creating and nurturing an intimate connection is an activity that takes thought. Such relationships require partners who are respectful, trustworthy, and considerate of one another. With many people, one or more of those ingredients may be missing, posing a risk of incompatibility or hurt. For that reason, it's a good idea to carefully consider who we want to invite into intimate relationship with us. As noted in many previous episodes, it's important to know oneself well when choosing potential relationship partners. Knowing what one seeks in a relationship is important in filtering for those who share similar desires. Being aware of one's sensitivities and potential triggers enables us to better gauge whether a potential partner is likely to collide with those soft and delicate spots in our personality. Knowing the things that brings us joy helps us find partners who share those preferences, opening possibilities for greater mutual enjoyment of shared experiences. Possessing even solid self-knowledge is not sufficient to promote satisfying intimate relationships in one's life. It's also necessary to have the courage to make oneself visible and available to potential partners. That can be hard if one has repeatedly suffered setbacks or disappointments in prior relationships. It may seem easier to just keep oneself safe by not inviting connection with anyone, but taking that path can lead to isolation and loneliness due to our self-imposed invisibility. There's a middle ground that balances making oneself available for meaningful connections while reducing our risk of avoidable hurt and disappointment. The following steps offer a promising path. First, know oneself well, including what we seek from our intimate relationships, what our personal boundaries are in interactions with others, and what our likes and dislikes are. Second, make an effort to stretch beyond our comfort zone, to open ourselves to growth-promoting new experiences. Third is continually think about and assess how each of our relationships is evolving in terms of meeting our goals, feeling like a good fit for us, and promoting increased mutual trust and respect. And fourth, being willing to address areas of discomfort or misalignment with a partner in a timely fashion. This requires attunement to our intuition and to our conscious realizations. Avoidance or minimization of what our inner voice is telling us rarely leads to good results. To learn more about Two Open Doors and to engage with our community, I'd like to invite you to visit the Two Open Doors private Facebook group for posts and discussion, and the Two Open Doors meetup group for events. I also invite you to contact me directly by writing to me at Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E, at twoopendoors.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll use your inputs to guide my work on future blog posts and podcast episodes. Thanks for visiting Two Open Doors.